This paper examines time as a finite and non-renewable resource, distinct from money, energy, or attention. While modern systems emphasize optimization and efficiency, they often obscure the cumulative cost of fragmented time use. The analysis argues that time scarcity is rarely caused by poor planning alone, but by diffuse ownership and unexamined commitments. The objective of this working paper is not to prescribe behavioral solutions, but to clarify why time increasingly feels unavailable despite technological or organizational advancement. So, time is commonly discussed as something to be managed more effectively. Calendars, productivity systems, and optimization frameworks all rest on the assumption that time is abundant uh, but disorganized. This paper begins from a different assumption. Time is a scarce Time is scarce because it is easily consumed without conscious allocation. Right? Unlike money, time cannot be saved, stored, or recovered. Once spent, it exists permanently, regardless of attention or effort. The central question then is not how to do more with time, but how time is quietly lost in ways that feel invisible while they are happening. So, time differs from other resources in three fundamental ways. First, time is non renewable. Energy can be restored through rest, money can be regained through labor, attention fluctuates, time does not return. Second, time is evenly distributed but unevenly experienced. While everyone receives the same 24 hours, the subjective experience of time varies significantly based on stress, obligation, autonomy, and fragmentation. Third, time is consumed even in the absence of visible action. Waiting, worrying, indecision, and low level distraction all expend time without producing a clear or tangible outcome. These properties make time uniquely vulnerable to passive loss. So most individuals do not lose time through a significant single decision. Time is lost through accumulation. For example, unplanned obligations become permanent, short tasks multiply into constant interruption, open ended commitments remain unresolved. Over time, this creates a persistent sense of urgency without clarity. Days feel full, yet little feels complete. Contemporary systems intensify this effect. Digital platforms reward responsiveness rather than deliberation. Notifications fragment attention into units that feel negligible in isolation, but substantial in aggregate. This is not a moral failure, it is a structural condition. A common response to perceived time scarcity is self criticism. Individuals conclude that they are inefficient, undisciplined, or unfocused. This paper suggests a different interpretation. The issue is not effort necessarily, but boundaries. When time is treated as a background variable rather than a primary resource, it is continuously allocated by default rather than by intention. Reclaiming time, therefore, is less about optimization and more about refusal. Refusing unnecessary commitments, refusing perpetual availability, refusing the assumption that all time must be filled. So at this stage, the analysis suggests that time scarcity is not primarily caused by poor planning, but by diffuse ownership. When no clear framework governs how time should be spent, external demands decide by default. A reasonable preliminary conclusion is that treating time as a finite high cost resource reshapes not only schedules, but values. So, what one refuses to do becomes as important as what one chooses to pursue. Further inquiry is required to explore how individuals and institutions can establish meaningful time boundaries without withdrawing from responsibility or purpose. Thank you very much.